Welcome to East Germany, the Soviet state in Central Europe that existed from 1949 until 1990. During its existence, 18 million people lived behind the Berlin Wall, under the Socialist experiment. In East Germany, freedom of expression was severely limited, and dissent was suppressed. And in no place was this more evident than on the television of the so-called German Democratic Republic. In this video, we'll be pulling back the Iron Curtain to take a fascinating look at TV in East Germany. From wall-to-wall propaganda, creepy cartoons and downright bizarre programming, East German TV has to be seen to be believed. And the reason why it's so fascinating is because East German TV offers a fascinating insight into the unique culture of East Germany, and an insight into how millions of people lived every day under the socialist regime. So, let's dive in. First, a bit of history, so feel free to skip this bit if you know enough about East Germany already. But East Germany was born in 1949. After Nazi Germany's defeat in 1945, the Allied powers divided Germany into 4 occupation zones, with the Soviet Union being given the Eastern Zone. In 1949, as Cold War tensions grew, the Western zones unified to form the Federal Republic of Germany, or West Germany, while the Soviets formed East Germany. Berlin, though within the Soviet zone, was itself split in half, with East Berlin becoming the GDR's capital. The GDR, or East Germany, was moulded into a Soviet-style state, and moves were quickly taken to consolidate power, nationalise industries, collectivise agriculture, and suppress dissent. Under the communist regime, Western TV was banned, although many people could access it, which we'll cover in this video, and East German TV was launched. It operated under strict state control, and there were only 2 channels, DDR1 and DDR2. Programming was designed to educate, entertain, and reinforce socialist values. So, if you're ready, let's see what millions of East Germans watched every day. So, a typical morning on East German TV would look like this. Firstly, there would be a clock counting down to the start of programming. This is the main channel DDR1, and you are going to hear some amazing 80s tracks throughout this video, such as this one. After the clock counting down, we would hand over to our anchor for the day.
Ich wünsche Ihnen einen guten Morgen, liebe Zuschauer, und begrüße Sie zur heutigen Sendefolge.
This is the ever-charming Fanny Damashilk, and she would introduce you to the channel and then let you know what was coming up that day on DDR1. So let's take a look at the schedule.
15 heißt es.
Anyone else feel like they're in an elevator? One of the really nice things about East German TV is the host, who would appear to welcome you to the channel, would accompany you throughout the day, introducing each of the programs. We'll take a look at some of these programs in a second, but first I have to show you the famous spinning cube of DDR. This spinning cube ident was released later in the 1980s, and it became an iconic part of East German television and East German identity. I absolutely love this. Someone really needs to make a dance remix of this track. I absolutely love it. Anyway, the first TV show we're going to take a look at was the biggest news show in East Germany. This is Aktuelle Kamera.
Abend, meine Damen und Herren. Zunächst die Übersicht. Repräsentanten der DDR legten zum 53. Jahrestag der
In this clip from the 1970s, they're commemorating the 53rd anniversary of the October Revolution, and the host is telling you about the Soviet War Memorial in Berlin, where representatives of the East German state laid wreaths in honor of fallen soldiers.
Heute Vormittag 9 Uhr.
As the main news program in East Germany, Aktuelle Kamera, which translates to current camera, was a daily ritual for millions of viewers. It ran all the way from 1952 until German reunification in 1990, and it was the primary source for state-approved information. It probably goes without saying that Aktuelle Kamera wasn't strictly a news programme, as it had a marked pro-government bias, and typically did not report on news that was critical of the state or could fuel anti-government sentiment. In fact, the newsroom in Aktuelle Kamera was actually directly linked to the State Propaganda Bureau. Here's a later clip of Aktuelle Kamera from the 1980s.
Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. Internationale Beachtung für Rede Erich Honeckers auf zweiter Tagung des
Content on Aktuelle Kamera heavily emphasised the achievements of socialism. It would typically focus on things like industrial output, agriculture successes, and cultural events, while it often portrayed Western capitalism, especially West Germany and the US, as imperialist and morally decadent. International news would focus on solidarity with the Eastern Bloc countries and on anti-colonial movements. It basically served as a mouthpiece for the ruling Socialist Unity Party, delivering state-approved reports on domestic and international events. This is one of the last broadcasts of Aktuelle Kamera from 1990, reporting on the fall of the Berlin Wall. Throughout its time, Aktuelle Kamera maintained a formal, propagandistic tone, reflecting the state's tight control over the media. It avoided unscripted moments or critical reporting. However, it was pretty much an open secret in East Germany that Aktuelle Kamera didn't really broadcast, well, news. And this is because that many people in East Germany could receive West German news broadcasts, including ARD's Tagesschau, which offered a contrasting view. However, there were some places in East Germany that could not receive Western television, such as Dresden. For this reason, it was named the Valley of the Clueless. And we should say that the Western news broadcasts were not without their own propaganda itself, and so most East Germans would watch Aktuelle Kamera and West German news and decide that the truth was somewhere in the middle. Despite all its flaws, Aktuelle Kamera remains an iconic piece of East German history. But a more infamous news show was this one. This is the Schwarze Canal, translated as the Black Channel. The Black Channel was a long-running propaganda TV program in East Germany. It was hosted by Karl Eduard von Schlitzer, a staunch communist and East German party loyalist. The show aired weekly on Monday evenings at 9:30, and it aimed to counter West German media influence. The show's concept was unique. It would rebroadcast selected clips from West German news and entertainment shows, which were already widely accessible in East Germany. Von Schnitzler would then provide scathing, ideological charged commentary, framing the Western content as evidence of capitalist corruption and moral decay. He had a bombastic style, often sarcastic or indignant, and he sought to expose the true nature of the West, contrasting it with East Germans' socialist virtues. In this video, he is criticising West Germans' portrayal of the remembrance of D-Day on the news, saying it failed to mention the Soviet sacrifice, and he stresses that 20 million Soviet lives were lost, a critical point that tends to be overlooked in Western narratives. Von Schlitzner was a hero to some and a joke to others, but the show was watched by millions, some out of party loyalty and some ironically. Either way, the Black Channel is one of the most well-known, infamous propaganda shows from East German TV history. But now let's move on to something a bit lighter. This is Unser Sandmännchen, translated as Our Little Sandman. This is a cherished East German children's TV show that first premiered in 1959. Aimed at young viewers, it aired daily in the evenings, initially at 6:50 p.m, later adjusted to around 7 p.m, and it served as a bedtime ritual for generations. The programme, which was only 10 minutes long, was designed to calm children and ease them into sleep, and it quickly became a cultural cornerstone of East Germany. Each episode contains gentle tales, often featuring puppets, stop-motion animation, or live actors. The stories are drawn from East German life and often have socialist-friendly themes. They often depict children's adventures, animal antics, or visits to other Eastern Bloc countries. Each episode would end with the Sandmännchen sprinkling magical sand from a sack, signalling bedtime for East German children as a soothing lullaby played. Unlike much East German programming, Unser Sandmännchen pretty much transcended propaganda, instead focusing on universal childhood themes. After German reunification in the 1990s, it actually outlived its West German rival and continues production today. As of March 2025, it remains Germany's longest-running children's show. It's a rare East German export that has become a unifying national treasure, evoking nostalgia across former divides.
Im Märchenland schnippeldi schnappeldi Scher, bin allen Kindern wohl bekannt und reise weit umher.
Another popular kids TV show was Mr. Needlehoor Ezerholt, translated as Master Needle-Ear Tells Stories. Yeah, I know.
Ja, sagt mal, habt ihr es schon gemerkt?
This series features the character Mr. Needlehoor narrating fairy tales and folk stories, often with some kind of moral or socialist undertone. It aired in the 1960s and 70s, and it used simple sets and puppets to engage children, blending entertainment with gentle lessons about community and cooperation, Soviet values of course. It was a staple of early East German children's programming, appealing to younger audiences with its traditional narrative style. Kids shows often use puppets or animations due to budget limitations and the influence of Eastern Bloc traditions. As you might expect, fairy tales were very popular in East Germany, and this one, called Das Hexennetz, translated as The Witch's Net, tells a, well, terrifying story.
Weg und Steg verschneit, für uns die richtige Zeit. Nachtmar! Du! Hier erwischen wir ihn! Ja, wo bleibst du denn?
Yes, you'll never sleep again, children. A lot of the programming for kids on East German TV was actually pretty good, and many of the shows have become iconic and lived on even after the reunification. Kids TV is where East Germany really punched above its weight. The same, unfortunately, cannot be said for its entertainment television. Take a look at this. This is one of the first entertainment shows that came from East Germany. It's called Da lacht der Bär, translated as The Bear Laughs, and it aired all the way from the 1950s to the 1970s.
Franz Otto, du bist mein Tipp im Lotto. Du bist zwar gar nicht flotto und immer zu bankrotto. Oh Gott, oh Gott, oh Gott, ich liebe dich so sehr.
I like her, she seems fun. The show featured cabaret-style performances and light satire, although it goes without saying that, of course, it carefully avoided political critique of the regime.
Ich bin eine Frau von Format, von mir gibt es kein Duplikat. Ja, vor mir ziehen die Herren die Melone und man sagt, ich bin gar nicht so ohne, denn mein Herz, das hat 20 Karat.
So, as you can probably tell, the early days of entertainment in East Germany were not particularly great, and there were frequently murmurs of dissent about the quality of television, including the voice of the party's General Secretary Erich Honecker, who in 1971 called on TV professionals to overcome a certain boredom and drastically improve the quality of entertainment programming in the schedules. Again, because of the proximity of West German TV and its proliferation of really high quality entertainment programming, this was seen as an urgent priority. Enter Ein Kessel Buntes. This is Ein Kessel Buntes, translated as a kettle of colour, and this was a hugely popular East German variety TV show that aired all the way from 1972 up until the German reunification in 1990. Broadcast every 2 months on Saturday evenings, typically at 8 PM, the programme ran for about 2 hours and was one of East Germany's most prominent entertainment offerings, designed to bring a burst of light-hearted fun, and in colour no less, to its limited 2-channel landscape. I actually love this song. If you know anything about this band or this song, please do let me know in the comments. As well as music acts, the show featured a variety of circus and acrobatic acts as well. Go on, lads. So while the show's format drew inspiration from Western variety shows, it was tailored for a socialist audience, and it showcased performers from East Germany and other Eastern Bloc countries like the Soviet Union, Poland and Czechoslovakia. International stars from so-called friendly nations occasionally appeared, adding some glamour, though generally speaking, Western artists on East German TV were rare. I have to be honest, I actually really enjoyed watching this show. While the show was not overtly political, it did continue to serve the party's agenda by promoting socialist unity and cultural pride, subtly reinforcing their regime's narrative through its selection of acts. The show had massive viewing numbers, and this stemmed from both its entertainment value and the scarcity of alternatives. The programme's peak popularity came in the 1970s, fading slightly in the 1980s as economic woes and political unrest grew across East Germany. Today, the show remains a nostalgic symbol of East German entertainment. It's remembered by millions for its cheerful, if curated, celebration of socialist culture. And another hugely popular East German entertainment show was this one. This show is called Schweizwen Frühstück und Gansbrot. So, this show, translated as Between Breakfast and Roast Goose, was broadcast from 1957 to 1991 on every Christmas Day between 11 AM and 1 PM. I somehow get the impression that those are not official Disney costumes. But look, you can see our favourite little Sandman at the front there. This show quickly became part of the culture of East Germany, and watching it on Christmas Day was a tradition for millions of people. And I can see why. It's a really wholesome Christmas show. The last quarter of the show would usually begin with the instruction, "Now, quickly put the potatoes on," so that viewers could turn their attention to the prepared roast goose immediately after the show ended. With the closure of East German TV at the end of 1991, the show Between Breakfast and Roast Goose was discontinued, but it remains fondly remembered and missed by millions. Now, believe it or not, they did actually have the lottery in East Germany as well, which you think would be something reserved to the evil capitalist West, but nevertheless, here it was. Look at this awesome way that they would use to pick the lottery numbers. It is brilliant. Now, it perhaps goes without saying that the prizes you could win on the East German Telelotto were nothing compared to its Western alternatives. And as well as cash prizes, viewers would also win vacations, furniture, and household appliances. As the key purpose of TV in East Germany was to educate and inform, information programming was vast, and included shows such as this, Du und dein Garten, translated as You and Your Garden.
Fernsehzuschauer und einen guten Tag den Kleingärtnern der Anlage Mühlenwiese Finkenhirt in Apfelmus. Sagen Sie mal, von Vitamin haben Sie wohl noch gar nichts gehört. Vitamine.
You and Your Garden aired all the way from 1968 until 2003. Hosted by gardening expert Erika Kraus, the show focused on practical gardening tips, plant care and seasonal advice. It became a beloved beloved staple of East German TV, reflecting East Germany's emphasis on self-sufficiency and outdoor hobbies while operating in the constraints of a socialist economy.
Die den Garten in zwei Die Früchte, meine Gartenfreunde, die Sie auf diesem Tisch ausgebreitet sehen, gehören zu den wertvollsten Sorten, die wir in unserem Sortiment haben.
Another popular information show was this one, called Haushalts allure praktisch servet, translated as Household Miscellany Practically Served, also known as HAPS. HAPS focused on providing practical household tips, recipes and DIY solutions for everyday life. Importantly, it was tailored to the realities of living in a socialist economy, which often came with limited resources, and it offered viewers creative ways to manage their homes, prepare meals and repurpose materials. They would also test out the latest East German gadgets and kitchen appliances.
Oder Sie können natürlich einfach, ich beweise das Ihnen. So, bevor wir aber weitere Vorzüge des RG28 aufzählen
The programme's straightforward instructional style reflected East Germany's emphasis on frugality and self-reliance, while also serving as a subtle form of consumer education within the constraints of the planned economy. You can buy this tin opener and there are no others available. It remains today a nostalgic example of the utilitarian television from the period. No expenses spared on the credits. Now, East German TV did not show Western movies or dramas, and so to compete with the ongoing proliferation of media being beamed over the border from West Germany, East Germany began to produce its own TV dramas, and these were massively successful, and actually, they're really good. Popular shows included this one, Blaulicht. Blaulicht, which translates as Blue Light, was a crime TV drama series that aired from 1959 to 1968. The show consisted of 33 episodes, and they're all on YouTube with subtitles if you want to watch them. They're based on real crime case files, and each episode follows the assignments of the Volkspolizei, the VoPo, the National Police Force of East Germany. Blaulicht offered viewers a glimpse into the investigative work of the VoPo, blending procedural storytelling with a portrayal of law enforcement in a socialist state. The series is notable for its historical context, reflecting the societal and political environment of East Germany during the Cold War era. This episode is showing somebody robbing a bank, and it's actually a really good episode, so do go and watch it on YouTube. As Blaulicht was made at the height of the Cold War, it serves today as an important East German historical artifact. Another hugely popular show was this one, Polizeiruf 1110, translated as Police Call 1110. This is a long-running crime TV series that first premiered in 1971. This show was created as a counterpart to West Germany's hugely popular Tatort, and the series was designed again to showcase the work of the Volkspolizei, East Germany's national police force, and quickly gained popularity among viewers. Unlike many crime shows that focused heavily on murder, Police Call 1110 often depicted more common crimes such as domestic violence, extortion, fraud, theft and juvenile delinquency, alongside covering social issues like alcoholism and abuse. The show emphasised police procedure over the personal lives of its characters, distinguishing it from its West German rival. After the collapse of East Germany, the West German broadcasters actually took on this show, And now, with over 50 years on air, it remains one of Germany's most enduring and successful crime dramas, often featuring East German settings even in its modern episodes. And finally, I couldn't end this video without this, because every day on East German TV would close like this, with the East German national anthem playing over patriotic shots of East Germany. So, what happened to East German TV as the Soviet Union began to decline? Well, unlike the Soviet Union, East Germany did not undergo the same process of liberalisation that took place in the 1980s following Mikhail Gorbachev's reforms. Therefore, TV in East Germany entered its final years with much of the same personnel and much of the same programmes that had sustained viewers throughout the 1970s. This lack of innovation led viewers to increasingly turn away from East German TV and look for alternative sources of information. By the summer of 1989, less than a third of East Germans were watching East German TV, and news programmes like Aktuelle Kamera were watched by less than 10%. While attempts were made in the 90s to drastically reform its programming, it all came too late, and after the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Union collapsed, German reunification took place, and DDR TV was gradually erased from history. The German Reunification Treaty mandated the dissolution of East German TV, and all East German TV infrastructure and archives were integrated into West German public broadcasting. Operations formally ceased on December 31st, 1991. So, looking back now, almost 40 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, what legacy has been left of TV in East Germany? Well, as a state-controlled medium ruled under the Socialist Unity Party, East German TV served as a tool for propaganda, education and entertainment, leaving a lasting imprint on German history and collective memory. Its legacy is both creative and technical. Many East German shows are fondly loved throughout the whole of modern Germany, and its studios, archives and expertise all contributed to modern German broadcasting. While few people miss the realities of living in East Germany, which was marked by authoritarianism, surveillance and economic shortages, many are nostalgic for the simplicity, community and perceived stability of East German life, symbolised neatly on East German TV. There were no commercials, no depressing negative news, no swearing, no nudity, just simple, wholesome programming and only 2 channels. It was a simpler world, and while few would go back, many are nostalgic. And that is why East German TV is so fascinating, because it offers us a glimpse into a world that no longer exists. A world that was the socialist experiments, and all of its failures, and the unique imprint it left across the globe.